Será que está já para começar? Eu acho que
Yes,
sim, né?
yes.
Boa noite, pessoal. Sejam bem-vindos e bem-vindas. É um prazer estar aqui com vocês. Este é o nosso lançamento internacional do livro que acabou de sair, né? Jonas, Philosophy as Personal Engagement. Antes de começar, tem uma surpresa, no sentido de que, para quem participa do nosso lançamento ao vivo, tem uma cópia impressa do livro, né, que está bela pesada e até, infelizmente, muito cara, mas temos uma cópia para sortear para quem acessa o link que está no chat do canal YouTube agora, envia uma mensagem e no final do lançamento, daqui a uma hora, ou talvez até menos, iremos sortear, né? Então, quem será que vai ganhar esta cópia impressa do nosso livro? E depois de ter de ganhar, obviamente, terá tarefa prazerosa de lê-lo, vou esperar, enfim. And now I'm going to switch to English because it's an international presentation, and it's an honor to be here with two close friends. It's a long time since we know each other, and we knew each other thanks to Hans Jonas. Nathalie Fronier wrote, I was making some calculations. Your book appeared 25 years ago.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Incredible. No, it's a pleasure because it has been a very important book in my experience. I started. I think it was one of the first Jonasian books of secondary literature I read, and so it was the beginning of an acquaintance. And then some years after, we met with Gelson, and actually it's also interesting because so I'm in Brazil right now, but the reason for which I'm here is because of Jonas, and it was 2013 or maybe 14 when I met with Natalie personally, so we made acquaintance personally, and with Gelson also. So it was BH, Belo Horizonte, 2014. I know that you two, Natalie and Gelson, had met the previous year. So why I'm starting our book presentation with something which is preliminary to the book presentation, because this book is a result of not only a joint research effort, which dates back, I think, some 7 years ago, but also because it would have never been possible if we were not friends, not more than colleagues. I mean, there is a bond of friendship which has been intertwined with our scientific interests. And so this has made this book possible. And so the first thing I'd like to do is, so first we made it, we were successful, we accomplished the goal of publishing the book. And then thank you, because it wouldn't have been possible, I think, for me, at least individually, maybe it's the same for you, it wouldn't have been possible to write a similar book individually. So this is the first thing I'd like to stress. The second is that the idea of writing this book dates back several years, at least 7 years, if my calculations are correct, when Gelson wrote an email in his fervor of ideas, project maker, I think he wrote in that email. And so we took this effort seriously, and we wrote this book. But then the challenge. So all the three of us had, at that time and even now, had written extensively on Hans Jonas, maybe a bit too much. And so the challenge was, but was this book really necessary? And then we promptly replied, yes, it was necessary for several reasons. So the first reason is that although Jonas has become over the decades a well-known philosopher, there are still some geographic areas which, for several reasons, cultural or linguistic, have not been so receptive to Jonas's thinking. Especially the English-speaking community. So there has been a partial reception of Jonas. Only some of his works are actually, and still nowadays, known in some English-speaking communities, which, according to us, is a pity because Jonas has a lot to offer, not only in terms of academic philosophy, but in the sense of an important contribution to current debates, which we will mention shortly. And so there is a lack, there was and still is a lack of knowledge towards a philosopher, which we think is important. And so we wanted to fill in the gap regarding this knowledge. Then there is a second reason that we wanted to, after so many years of research, we wanted to say something out loud about what we think about Jonas, and maybe also in a very, delicate but also firm way, try to steer clear of some misunderstandings that now and then pop up in the reception of Jonas's thinking. So it's, we wanted to speak out loud our voice regarding some topics. And it was clear from the very beginning that we didn't want only to make a Jonasian exegesis. There is some exegesis in the text, also because some of the texts we work and we research are not well known. We made an effort of translating, of researching also in unpublished archives. So this is an aspect which is important. Yeah, I think basically this is the reason why we engaged into this crazy project. But we wanted to speak our voice, and not only exegetically, but regarding some topics which are being currently debated, regarding several aspects of philosophy, be it history of religion or philosophy of religion, be it philosophy of biology or cognitive sciences, be it ethics, political philosophy, or bioethics. So there is a wide range of issues. We don't have any pretension of being the know-it-all. We don't know, of course, many of the aspects, topics, but we wanted to contribute in a very proactive way to fostering further knowledge. And it could be also interesting to mention that we would like to pass Jonas's philosophy and the importance of the topics he inquired into we would like to pass these topics to the further generation of researchers. So the dedication of the book is to the future researchers of Hans Jonas. And I want to also tell these future researchers not to be afraid of inquiring into Jonas's thinking, because we already said everything. We did not absolutely say everything. There's still plenty of resources to be inquired into, and valuable things to be discovered. But we also are committed to this intergenerational, thinking. Now I wish to give the floor to Nathalie. We organize a sort of a schedule of our presentation. It will be swift and quick, and there will be some time for questions at the end. I forgot to thank Gregory, who is behind the scene, and also you people who are here with us tonight. Nathalie, it's a pleasure to give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Good evening, everyone, because for me it's evening. I am in Louvain, and it's 10 in the evening. So I'm very, very happy to discover this book, this hardcover book with you, and very happy to present it with my friends Roberto and Gelson. Roberto has already said a lot, so I will just add few things about our public. We would like to be read by young people, young researchers, young students who want to discover Hans Jonas and who want to have a bibliography and to discover the very well-known text, but also less known text as the one of the archives or the Kritische Gesamtausgabe. We would like to open up a wide range of text. So it was one point for us, and we would like also to propose some topics and some ideas, as Roberto said, for researchers, scholars who know very well Jonas. So we therefore thought to offer scholars a unique synthesis made possible by our three linguistic backgrounds, because we have different backgrounds, and we succeeded to gather some very different lectures and how can I say, comments. So in French, Portuguese, Italian, but also the language of Jonas, obviously, the languages that he wrote, so English and German. That's what I wanted to add. We have two publics, the one of the new scholars and the very mature scholars, people who have also written on Jonas. I give the floor to Gelson to explain the title and the table of contents.
Yes, thank you, Nathalie. Thank you, Roberto. I'm very happy to be here. This book, as my friends told us, is a book very important for us because it's a book about our life as well. Not only about the life of Jonas, but about our researchers, our friendship, our hopes, no, about what you have to do with the philosophy in this in our times, in our in this world and in these times. So for me, it's very, very. I'm very, very glad to be with them and to work with them. The book is part of a very big. How can I say? Very big and very important, very strong relationship between three of us and others that we work together as well. Nathalie is in Belgium, as you know. Roberto was in Italy, and I am always here in Brazil. And we have different aspects of interest in Jonas' philosophy. So each of us has not only a kind of a special way to read Jonas, but as well a special different aspects of his work that is interested for us. So I think this is a very important aspect of this book. This book is part of our life. Our as I told this I said as part of our project of life. That part of how we understand what is to do philosophy. So this title is for me very important in this aspect. Is philosophy as personal engagement. It's a kind of invitation to think philosophy with Jonas and with us as a personal engagement. This morning, Nathalie, I was speaking with the students of philosophy here in PUC Paraná, and I was speaking just about this, that we have to think philosophy always as personal engagement, in the sense that we have to not only to think abstract. This is very important philosophy, as we know, but in the same time we have to be compromised with the transformation of the world. And I think in the case of Jonas, this was very, very important, and this is very important. No, so for Jonas, philosophy is not a detached reflection, but a response to life, a response to history, and in the same in the in special case, the response to responsibility. We have to think the philosophy of Jonas from this concept so important for him, the concept of responsibility. So another thing I have to add is that philosophy for Jonas, for me, is rooted in experience, because Jonas, we know his thinking emerges always from lived reality, not from abstraction alone. It is shaped by concrete historical events. That was the war, the atomic bomb, the exile, the Holocaust, but as well in United States, the problems of bioethics or the problem of technology. So the concrete historical events always was a part of the thinking of Jonas. And in this case, Jonas told us, show us that is not possible to do philosophy in a neutral way. This is no longer possible. We have always to be compromised with our time. The end of philosophical neutrality so is part of this project. Jonas is not an observer outside of the world. He's always involved. He's always involved in it, affected by the world. In the same time, this affectation is part of the responsibility that he assumed for the world. Knowledge, so, is a kind of experience of responsibility. To know is not a neutral thing. To know is is always a form of ethical implication. This for me is another very strong how can I say, thing that we learn from Jonas. When, for instance, he reconnect ontology and ethics, he seeks to overcome the fragmentation, for instance, of modern thought by linking being, action, and moral responsibility to confront the things that he called dogmas in philosophy. So another thing, he assumed the challenge of technology. He saw that modern technological power creates new risks, demanding, in this case, new ethical framework, as we know, capable of protecting life, protecting people, protecting animals, protecting vegetables, plants, the biosphere as whole. So the imperative of responsibility is part of this project to be part of the world, to comprehend himself as part of the world. So philosophy must be oriented toward the future in this case, especially toward the preservation of life and the possibility of life, the future generations. So philosophy is always commitment. No, to think is to take a stand. To think is to take your part of the world, is part of the history. To think is always to make philosophy become an engagement, responsible and situate practice. So the central idea of this book, I think, for me, is this: to explore how in Jonas thinking and living are things are inseparable, and how philosophy becomes a form of ethical engagement with the world. And we have to think that not only in about someone who lives in the past. It means Jonas is died 1993, but we have to think how we could now to make new things with Jonas' philosophy. We have to, I don't know, to put again, or not to leave the thinking of Jonas lost this capacity of mobilization, capacity of mobilization of responsibility, but even hope that is possible to change our world. I told you, I said, one world that is very difficult to understand. Is always again difficult to live in this world. There is war again. There is the climate change. There is I don't know, not people are not living as they deserve. Animals are in risk of extinction, and so on. So we have now, with Jonas, with his ideas, to do something to change this world. I would to finish remembering very strong phrase from Darcy Ribeiro, that one time told that he was a kind of, he lost every struggle who was involved. He tried to struggle in favor of education. He lost. He tried to be involved with I don't know, agrarian reform, and he lost. He was involved with ethical perspective. He lost. But in the same time, he told us that it will be terrible to be in the same side of who win in this case. So perhaps we don't win. We have, but in this case, even in this case, we have to be part of the struggle, to struggle our to make our part of this process. So thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Roberto, for your patience with me. I have to say that Roberto was working so much with these books, no, Natalie, and he lost the end of the holidays in the end of the year, organizing quotations, organizing the publication with the Springer. So Roberto, special for you. My very strong abraço. And so the book, as we will speak out now, have seven chapters, And so we could now very quickly explain for you each chapter, and then we finish this section. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to what you just said, Gelson, regarding. So the first question we had when we were planning the book was where to begin. So with what to put in chapter one. Yeah. And so the idea was, since everything starts from biography, from experience, from engagement, so was an intellectual biography, which was aimed to let the um, the seminal ideas of Jonas stem from his biography, his engagement. And I also, when you were speaking, I also would like to say that so Jonas, although he died in 1993, he is always a companion to us. I mean, so he lived extremely dark times. So, not that I wish to compare the current dark times with his dark times, I think they are uncomparable. But nevertheless, I'm also convinced that we are facing currently dark times. And so to have a good companion, so to have you too, Gels and Natalie, with whom we share our worries, etc., but also have Jonas as well as others, but in this case,
Great.
Jonas as a companion. So it's a consolation, you know. So I think biography, intellectual biography, Jonas's intellectual biography was an interesting point from which to start from. And then I give the word to Nathalie for what's in the following chapter. So the first chapter is his intellectual biography, and then
we have a second chapter in which we examine Jonas' methodology, especially his hermeneutics and his roots in phenomenology. Very early on, Jonas met Heidegger and Boltzmann, as we know, and they will become his thesis supervisor, but also the founders of the Marburg hermeneutics. So in this school, Jonas will study Gnosticism and late antiquity, and he will make this hypothesis that all late antiquity is the expression of a kind of Gnosticism. So he develops three questions which will become for him three challenges to be addressed in his own philosophy. First of all, Gnostic dualism, which regards the body and the world as a prison for the human spirit and must be addressed. Second, the hermeneutics based on Heidegger's existential analysis in Sein und Zeit will itself reveal a dualistic and nihilistic position. So Jonas must therefore criticize the conclusion and the collusion between these two lines of thought across the centuries. Finally, when confronted with the ultimate questions of meaning, he will show that myth resists a complete demytholization as Bultmann conceived it. So Jonas will take a distance with Bultmann, who has always been his dear friend, but also a distance from Heidegger. And he will consequently propose his myth on God in the becoming God. And it's a myth who is possible to conceive with our time in two respects. One, of the survivors of the dehumanization perpetrated at Auschwitz, as Roberto said, and on the other hand, the contemporary minds who completely explain the world through science. Jonas wants to make the hypothesis of the God, a weak God. And so for making this hypothesis and to articulate his explanation of the reality with metaphysics, he will interpret the tradition of Tzimtzum and propose his own myth. So this second chapter reveals an hermeneutical point of view, who is in the whole work of Jonas, not only in the beginning of his research, but till the end. He will remain an hermeneut. I don't know how we can say it in English. So the second chapter demonstrates a significant unity in Jonas' works as a whole, based on his ongoing engagement with myths from his research on Paul, and a thematic unity that also stems from his sensitivity to evil, which is not merely a disorder or an error, but an inherent dimension of our condition and the negative forces in the universe. The third chapter is dedicated to freedom. It's dedicated to a question that is also central to his work, but this time as a thematic concern, that of freedom. In reality, the problem of freedom is a major thread running through Jonas' philosophy, both from a chronological point of view, from his PhD thesis on Paul and Augustine, in Augustine und das politische Freiheitsproblem, to his death, but also from a logical point of view. Like being for Aristotle, freedom in Jonas' works is expressed in several ways: subjective, metabolic, ontological, mythological, and metaphysical. And always with two sides, one critical and the other constructive, which are inseparable. We distinguish at least 7 types of freedom: freedom as will, historical freedom, physical freedom as the ability to control one's own body, ontological freedom as a principle of life, cosmological freedom as a tendency within nature, eidetic freedom of the homo pictor, and political freedom. So according to Jonas, freedom is therefore the heuristic key to understanding our relationship with the world and with ourselves. Furthermore, this description and the ontological and metaphysical implication provide a critical tool for examining the history of thought and philosophy, as well as the history of science and religion. That's why we can say that Jonas develops a critical phenomenology, I think. Beyond the apparent dispersal, however, a continuous thread emerges. On the critical side, Jonas defends freedom between two opposite pitfalls: the fault of those who deny it or think it's powerless, and the excess of those who think it is powerful. That's the content of the third chapter for me. Roberto, do you want to speak about life?
About life, yes, because it's connected to the third chapter on freedom. Among the meanings of freedom, Natalie mentioned, there is the freedom of the organic living being. And it's interesting because there is a close relationship between life and freedom. But the decision to put the chapter on freedom before life as Nathalie said, has also strong interpretative meaning, which means that his inquiry into freedom is wider and more comprehensive than Jonas's inquiry into life, which, at least in Jonas's writings, appears for the first time in the so-called Lehrbriefe. So the letters Jonas wrote during the war to his wife. And so the chapter on life at the same time tries to achieve two goals. So the first is to put Jonas's reflections on life into the context of German philosophy, but also the post-war scientific inquiry into life, and at the same time try to draw attention to some sources of Jonas's philosophy of life, which for different reasons have not yet been so much studied, or are not so well known in the present. And so the topic of life, which Jonas started to study without having any books available, it was during the war. So he reflected on his experience, on his engagement as a living being, who reflected on the conditions of his being. It's interesting because, of course, in the first part of the 20th century, Jonas was not the only philosopher. Actually, there is a huge amount of publications, especially in German philosophy in the first half of the 20th century on this topic. So, on the topic of life from a philosophical point of view, and trying to interact with other sciences, biology, anthropology, and so on. And so the first curiosity we had was to try to see if there was something unique and special in Jonas's account. And if you want to know more about this, please read the book, because there is, of course, something unique in Jonas's approach. And also because after the war, so the first document where Jonas carries out a reflection, a very innovative reflection on life, is the Lehrbriefe, where on the one hand, it seems that his perspective is still quite based on, from the point of view of the human being. So it's a very anthropologically oriented inquiry into life. Nevertheless, in the Lehrbriefe, you will find what Nathalie mentioned is this typically Jonasian methodology of dialectics, of duality between poles, which are inseparable. And so this is also something interesting, because it's always Jonasian, the Jonasian methodology applied to life. And this emerges for the first time in the Lehrbriefe. But then it's also biographically something which is also somehow comforting. So because after the war, Jonas had to change his country of residence. He moved to first Canada and then to the US. And then, it was not so easy for him to publish. And his first book, which only afterwards, and in a very different way, which is The Phenomenon of Life, it appeared in 1966, but it's not so well known that there has been a first version whom Jonas tried to publish, and he was absolutely unlucky with no success. So this book was only published recently in 2016 as an annex to the Kritische Gesamtausgabe that Nathalie mentioned. So I say, apart from the interest in this unpublished book, which is available on the internet, what is also comforting is that, and I say this for the young researchers, also for us who are not so young anymore, but we all encounter difficulties in publishing. So what I would say is we are not alone, because Jonas as well had very many difficulties in publishing his books, especially this one, which is devoted, whose title is Organism and Freedom, of course, and in which there are very many interesting things on philosophical anthropology, on animal life, on vegetal life, on the relationships between these different levels of life. In this book, Jonas also underlines from a very interesting point of view what's the meaning of evolution according to him. And so instead of focusing on the most known works by Jonas on life, we chose to give more importance to the seminal aspects of his thinking on the philosophy of life. And of course, then at the end of this inquiry into life appears the human being. And as earlier mentioned in chapter 3 on freedom and on the dialectic aspects of mythology in chapter 2, with the appearance of the evolutionary appearance of the human being, things get somehow complicated, because with the human being, freedom acquires a wider possibility, and also the possibility to ruin everything. So it is in this moment that also the ambivalence of human freedom appears, and with the necessity to delve into human freedom's alter ego, which is responsibility in technological times. And so this is where our journey continues into chapters 5, 6, and 7. And I leave the floor to Gelson, who will introduce our thoughts on this.
So, Roberto, thank you. It's very, very quickly. So this part of the book is probably one of the most known part of the thinking of Jonas about technology and ethics of responsibility. So this chapter 5, we try to understand what is the how can I say, the diagnosis of Jonas about technology as a power, a new kind of power in the modern times. We spoke about this, about a kind of technological syndrome. It's a very important way of interpretation, because it means that we have, it's a difficult or a complex issue to understand. So it's a kind of syndrome. We have a lot of signs, but it's difficult to understand exactly what are we thinking about this issue. We spoke about the project of Jonas of a philosophy of technology. This is very important for us here, especially here in Brazil, that we have connect with the Jonasian researchers, this big group about philosophy of technology in the ANPOF, National Association of Philosophy here in Brazil. So to speak about Jonas in this way is for us very interesting and very important. So Jonas was have a very clear idea about the necessity to to thinking about technology in a philosophical way. So the technology is an object of philosophy, and then part of this is philosophy. Then technology is part of ethics as well. So this is the fifth chapter. We, of course, we try to understand the pre-modern technique, the idea that before the modernity, the technology was not so strong, was not a power, but a kind of response to the necessity of humankind. But with the modernity, we have a very strong change in this sense. And so Jonas spoke about this, wrote about the 5 stages of the history of technology in our world, starting with the mechanics and then and finished with the biotechnology. Well, it means Jonas was very, very preoccupied with the new powers in these aspects of medicine or biology or life in general. So and we finished this chapter speaking about against technophobia. It means to trying to clear that Jonas in this aspect was not a technophobic researcher or philosopher, but in the problem is when technology don't work, don't lost the ethics. It means leave the hand of the ethics. So this is the problem for Jonas. Not Jonas is not a technophobic philosopher. The next chapter is about responsibility. It means it's the most known book of Jonas, the imperative of responsibility, das Prinzip Verantwortung. And we try to understand what is the challenge of this book. It means the environmental crisis, the idea of a practical philosophy. It means the ethical, one kind of new ethical perspective to think the technology and the environmental crisis. But as well, we are trying to show that responsibility is a kind of alternative to indifference of the modern philosophy or modern science. It means if in the ancient world the idea was hostility to the world, now in the modern philosophy we have an indifference to the world, to the nature, and this is why Jonas was very convinced that responsibility is very important, is an alternative to these feelings or this aspect of our modern world. We analyze the difference between good, dirty, living beings. We analyze the parental or political responsibility. There is a part here about political aspects of responsibility that is always a kind of problem for us when we read Jonas, because someone thinking that Jonas has no political thinking, and I think that we have here very good reasons to disagree of this interpretation. Jonas he is very preoccupied with these political aspects of the world, of course. From the perspective of the critic of utopia of technological age or technological progress. And we end the book with reflection about Jonas' contribution to bioethics. We have to remember that Jonas was a fellow foundation of this very important center of bioethics, the Hastings Center in United States. And from this perspective, Jonas was involved with very important issues that we today we call bioethics problems. But Jonas used only one time the word bioethics, but we try to show that Jonas even don't using the word. He was very strong involved with these issues. For instance, in the point of view of the creation of life, for instance, reflecting about human cloning or genetic engineering. But in the other side, the postponement of death, for instance, organ transplantation, euthanasia, or right to die, for instance, are issues that we classified with the bioethics problem, but in the Jonas perspective, are central to understand the the process of biotechnology against the life. And another thing is that in this case, we try to show how, for instance, which is the whole of economy in the thought of Jonas, and in the other side, the whole of the anthropology in this perspective, because the preoccupation of Jonas is the challenge related to the image of a human being. So we are in the how can I say, in the perspective of bioethics, but always but as well in the applied anthropology or applied ethics, or even about economy problems or something like this. So this is the last chapter. We have to remember that if you want to read just one chapter of this book, you could buy just this chapter. If you are, I don't know, researching about life, so you could buy the chapter 4. That is how can I say, a complete work. It means there is an introduction, there is the topics, and then the conclusion, and then the reference. So you could read the book not at the end to from the cover to the end, but you could read the book in different ways, starting from your perspective as well. So I think this is another very important thing in this book. Sorry, I always speak a lot.
Thank you, Gelson.
Thank you. So I think we have a couple of minutes for questions, if there are questions from the audience. If not, there is the sorteio. In English, again, it's, I don't remember. I don't draw a lot, lots, draw lots. Was it this? So
Yes. So if you have, se vocês têm questões, vocês podem escrever aí no próprio chat do YouTube.
Em qualquer idioma.
Em qualquer idioma.
Italiano, francês, português, inglês.
But can I read the quotation we put in the introduction of the book during the people are thinking about the question? I think it's very interesting. Roberto chose that passage that is very, very interesting. It's from the text called Science, as a personal experience, or Wissenschaft as a personal experience. Of course, the title of the book is inspired by this thing. Gregory is remember us that we have to remember you people that are in this transmission, that you have to answer the forms in the
Se par do sorteio tem que
botar o seu nome aí no forms.
Respondeu.
So the quotation is Robert, could you read? Probably your English is.
If I haven't my spectacles, my glass, so as concerns understanding the cognitive approach of the humanities, it is clear that personal experience, understood as empathy with the objects, itself the concrete embodiment of experience, is an indissoluble part of the intellectual process from start to finish, pervading the entire interpretation. How else can one study history, for example, the history of art, literature, religion, politics, of all the past thoughts, feelings, and actions of humankind? We must use our imagination. What has been experienced must be re-experienced.
It's beautiful.
Mhm.
What has been experienced must be re-experienced.
Mhm.
We have to experience again and
Mhm.
again this kind of things. It's very, very,
On the
very beautiful.
centrality of interpretation, which is what Natalie stressed in chapter 2, so the hermeneutical approach. Mhm. Yeah.
Yes. So we have questions, Gregory? No? I think not.
No questions.
No questions. So
Sorteio.
I don't know. Sorteio. Gregory, could you help us how we could do this? So we have to say thank you for all the people who are here, no, Roberto and Natalie,
Exactly,
and
absolutely.
people
Mhm.
who could after this see the how can I say the record of this moment. So thank you, and you could we hope we hope that you use this book as part of your research as well. And as Roberto told us, the book is dedicated to the next scholars, future scholars. So these are you, the future scholar, students, master, doctorates, and others. So the book is for you.
Exactly. We have a question. And also the name of the winner.
Yes. Before the question and then the name of the winner, Roberto.
Sorry, I was distracted by the cat who jumped on the table.
So the question is, in the vision of you authors, which is the importance of this work, this book, if you think about the academic ambience,
Mhm.
and in this world that is um, always that is not preoccupied with the environmental problems.
Environmental problems.
Natalie, do you want to answer this question?
May
Is
I
Paula?
answer in French or
Yes,
shall
of
I
course.
answer in
Of
English?
course.
No, I can try to. I think that Jonas, as we as philosophers, don't are not afraid to be against the stream. We have to continue to insist in our conviction and not to leave our conviction, even if it's not fashionable or if it's not the tendency of the majority. We have to be convinced and to decide in full consciousness. We have to study and confront and debate with other, because if we remain convinced by ourselves but alone, it's not to be against the stream. So I think that Jonas has this courage to study and to confront his philosophy with a scientist and other people, and it's always with a debate that he was able to think against the stream. I think we are still in the same situation. That's my point of view. I don't know, Gelson and Roberto, what you think about it.
Yeah, I enjoy this answer very, very much. And I recognize myself in your answer, Natalie.
Definitely, Natalie. There is another question from Christian. Hi, Christian from Chile. We are happy to see you here. He asked us if we consider that philosophy of technology of Jonas is not, I don't know, incorporate in the principal current of philosophy of technology. And I think it's true because there is a lot of how can I say, not good understanding, misunderstanding of Jonas' propose. The most strong Christian for me is the topic of transphobia. And this is not good for the reception, was not good for the reception of the ideas of Jonas in philosophy of technology. And another thing is that philosophy of technology, in part of this tradition, as you know, is always, I don't know, enthusiastic of technology. Jonas is always a critic and has a lot of, as Natalie told us, is against the stream. So this kind of philosophy is not so easy to understand and to reception for the reception. So I think you are right. Is not the male in philosophy of technology, but Jonas is very strong, and his project is very, very clear and very necessary for us today, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Roberto, so the winner is the Oscars go to...
The winner is Shall I read the name of the winner?
Yes, please.
Guilherme Correa Caputo.
So Guilherme
the second surname is surely Italian, so I think he's Italian descendants.
Yes. So Guilherme, you have to send us your address. Okay. You have to send your address, please. Could you send the address by the Instagram of the Centro Hans Jonas Brasil? The interest. Oh, Guilherme. I know you. Is the boyfriend of Paula. Perfect. So the Guilherme has a now very very strong task to read the book and to write.
Exactly. A responsibility, a very heavy responsibility.
Yes,
thorough responsibility.
Congratulations, Guilherme. So, Roberto?
I think this is it. Thank you very much for being with us. Again, Nathalie, Gelson, thank you for the partnership. And let's see if in the future other joint adventures, but surely there will be more adventures. I don't know if Jonasian, but philosophical for sure, Jonasianly inspired. But it's been a pleasure to be with you in this effort, and see you very soon. Bye bye. Grande abraço.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Nathalie. Thank you so much. Obrigado,
Ciao.
Gregory. Ciao.
Obrigado.
Já saiu todo